Into the droid factory. All the elements there again, the idea of a crane, multiple parts that in a base where the parts fit, all completely handmade model here. This will be the white styrene material painted brown. You can see from the edges where it's scuffed a little bit. So really fun stuff to see, and that the guys were using like found parts in a set like this, and just to put the idea together, and they would use stuff like model kits and
lots of model kits, set, spaceships and airplanes. They all got sacrificed for these things.
Right. And here's one I don't think you've seen, unless you've been online for a long time and you remember this back when they popped up on StarWars.com. The Death Star space station, which Jim helped make.
The one on the left is the model that we built in prelim, and that's all. The cannon on the top is the kit bash. There's a whole bunch of different parts. Probably Second World War cannons and some spaceship parts from NASA. So we constructed that way. The desk in the middle, that was all done with vacuum formed parts by the model shop. Not exactly parts of that original trash compactor are from some Play-Doh stuff that we did, and I think part of it was too from a product that we had called Play Stone. But I know the crank is from an extruder. But we would use all kinds of things just to put these things together, and then it was again turned over to production design, and where all the kinks were taken out of it, and the production models next to it. So, but it is just a process of putting it all, kit bashing and model shop work.
That's right. You got eagle eyes, if you can see that little the trash compactor monster sticking his head out in there. It's only 3 levels, but all the basics are there, the cardboard inserts and everything. But you can see, they turned it over for the production designers and those guys that made it. 4 levels. They integrated the trash compactor. So really, as cool as the concept model is, they really took it to the next step when they finally released the toy. So kudos, and that's a great place. There's just so many features packed into that one thing. All these elements from the film that they captured in this one toy. It's probably one of the favorite playsets.
It was designed specifically when we designed it. It was designed as pie wedges so that you could continue the circle. So it was intentional that it was shaped like that. I've never actually seen anybody put that many sets together.
I think it takes like 16 or something to do that. So kids wouldn't have done it, but now that you can buy beater sets, I've seen a couple of different guys that do it, but I think it's like 60. It's an insane amount. It's less of a wedge than you think. You put 4 together and it'd be a circle, but the idea was there to make a round Death Star. So really fun thing. And a little early version of the Patrol Dewback here. You see where they sculpted the legs into the saddle, so it looked like the stormtrooper were straddling it. Right?
But that was a practical solution that we had to come up with. Because we had straight-legged figures, we had to find a way to put them on the dewback, so the trapdoor was where that happened. And that was continued on to the Tauntaun.
Yeah.
But it was a way to get stiff-legged, non-articulated hips to put them on a dewback or a Tauntaun.
Yeah, so Jim came up with the trapdoor idea, and this is a late '79. He had gone to visit the set Empire Strikes Back to see the Tauntaun. He got the idea of doing that. So about the time this was being developed, they were still developing Empire Strikes Back. So and the Tauntaun had the same feature in there. So pretty cool. And the other thing in this, the dewback's head here would go up and down versus side to side. So for play value, the swinging the tail and making the head go side to side is a natural combination versus the up and down motion. So it's pretty neat, but it's amazing. This physical model has never surfaced. And then we jump into the early X-Wing fighter model that Jim alluded to.
Yeah, this is based on a snapshot that we got, which was a 3x4 snapshot of the X-Wing. So the proportions weren't real clear from the snapshots, but these are the X-Wing concept was developed in prelim, and the lights and sounds, putting LED on the front, which was pretty high tech for 1977. And then everybody asked about the buttons. They're from Radio Shack. But again, this is getting the concept across. We didn't have to worry about how you'd integrate it. We just needed to present it to our management and 20th Century and Lucas. So we got the idea across, and then once it went to preliminary design, or went from preliminary to production, that's when all the refinements got done. And this was done after the movie. I mean, the prelim model came before the movie, but the production stuff started after the movie. So we, by then, were getting photography that we needed from Lucasfilm. So it made it much easier, because they weren't prepared up front to have the front, side, top, bottom, all the views that we needed. They just had snapshots off the set. So that's why our proportions changed. And also we're fighting price point. That's why this one's a little stubbier than the one they're making now. Is that this cost $15.99 retail. So we were fighting prices. The last one I bought was $57.
You guys can see there's two buttons in the back, one for the sound, one for the lights. But it has all the elements there. The X-Wings fold out. The R2 dome is in there. The canopy that moves. So except for the little stunted wings, it's pretty much all there. And this would have been made in the model shop, you know, out of styrene board and other parts. Going along with that, the TIE Fighter you guys saw earlier. This is on the back, and that X-Wing before and the TIE Fighter were translated for the 12-back card back. If you ever look at those, it's kind of off. The TIE Fighter looks a little different. It's a photo of this model. Again, a styrene model, very plain here, no panel accents to give it some color. And you know, they dressed it up, give it a little bit more industrial look. And certainly when you add the decals to the panels, it definitely improves it. And the octagon of the clear canopy there. I mean the windshield. No wind in space. So when you jump into the land speeder, you can look at this guy. He's pretty fancy. That paint job there looks a little bit more like Luke's land speeder. Would it cost reduced this more to produce the final toy? Really cool piece to see, and like for Jim's purposes, just to get the idea across, you just throw a remote control next to it, and you say, "Hey, we're going to do a remote control version." It's the same one. So ultimately, this was the sonic land speeder. So you click that remote, and the sound would activate the steering of that. Let me release it, JCPenney. On a higher price point, one of the rare Star Wars toys from that time period. And then bringing Darth Vader's TIE Fighter into the fold here. He gets his little shot. You can see the little white around the canopy. They just took a white TIE Fighter and painted it gray and made some new wings out of styrene. It's all flat sheet. There's no cross-hatching or anything like those. And this guy changed quite a bit here. The original model for the Sandcrawler. Obviously, those are tank treads, a lot of the wheels in there, things like that were highly detailed. They were never going to go to the final model, but this gets the idea across. You can see the little antenna sticking off the back of that thing. So the form was mostly there. They changed it a little bit, but really interesting to see. And this is again this has been a white styrene model that was painted brown. So, very fun stuff. Early version of the Millennium Falcon. And the guy who made this is still with Hasbro.
Mark Boudreau is still designing Millennium Falcons. His first one was done in foam core. It was a beautiful foam core model. And then they went further, going on to styrene. But he's had his hands on, I think almost, maybe not all of them, but most of the Millennium Falcons that have been done over the last 40 years. He's still doing it.
Still doing it. Started as an intern, working for these guys. Now he's the head honcho on the design side for Hasbro. You know, this guy's pretty wicked, isn't it? Imperial Troop Transport, the early concept of this very angular design. It's got an X-wing engine pod on the top.
Looks like that really well.
The engine pod's actually where the battery went. It's a C-size battery, would have fit in there in the top of the pod. The pod was split in half, put the battery in there. And this is mentioned in, I think it's Plastic Galaxy. You talked to Tom Troy, the designer of this. He envisioned a sort of Imperial droid that went in, so you could see that droid in the front of that cargo hold. And he basically took an R2-D2 figure. He had to cut the feet in half. You can see the feet have been chopped down because it was too tall to fit in his model. That droid, that black droid R2 still exists. We've never seen evidence of the 3D form of that troop transporter existing, but that'd be another one that was all sheet styrene painted and expertly made by the model shop. And so that's a gorgeous piece.
And there's lots of model kit detail on it. Yeah, it's much cooler than what ended up in production. So Tom was in the prelim group, and that's what he turned over. And then it was probably cost reduced for some reason, make it shorter, more compact, or maybe Lucasfilm had their influence on it.
Yeah, I think this made its. This is back into the toy fold the last few years as a toy. I think it's in Rebels, right?
Yeah.
And then jumping in out of the action figure vehicles into the diecast line, you can see two early versions here of the X-wing and not two, one each of the TIE Fighter and the X-wing. And that TIE Fighter, I should have taken a picture. It looks like the Colin Cantwell sort of reminds me of that of the original models that Lucasfilm helped develop for the movie side. But just interesting to see, the early versions and how they transformed to the final version. And again, expanding that line, the rest of the diecast vehicles. If you look really closely at the Millennium Falcon, is again made of styrene. And I don't know what the scale of these are. When you take a photo like this, you can't tell exactly how big these pieces are. It's possible it was 1-to-1, but pretty neat to see that somebody sat and handmade that. Possibly Mark. We don't know for sure, but you can see the differences there, how it went from concept to final form. And then now we've gone through diecast. What's left? We got a little 12-inch action figure action here. We got early concept of Luke and Leia, and all the basics are there. All the hair, the styled hair, the belt, the outfit, and Luke's belt, the grappling hook. It's all there. I do not know what figures those are. Those are existing dolls. It looks like Marie Osmond.
Yeah.
So Luke and Leia, we jump in, back to $6 Million Man. Use the bionic Bigfoot there to mock up a Chewbacca. So pretty cool there. And then sticking with more TV toys. They took the Hardy Boys, Parker Stevenson, gave him an outfit, shot some photos, and he's a really confident Han Solo right there. Nancy Drew was definitely going to love him if he showed up in that outfit. So and you can see the basics again there: the metal, the vest, all the clothing, everything translated over. Because it was easier. They could have made their sewing department would have been able to whip up an outfit way faster than you could tool up a new head. So, and you had these pieces already in existence. So why stop at Han Solo? Throw a little bit of body putty in there, give him a disguise, and turn him into Ben Kenobi. So this robe still exists. It's like a burlap cloth with a belt, like a monk's tunic almost. This is from a French catalog. This photo, so it's pretty fun to see that, that they would go to that level. But you can see just to get some idea that you're going to have a Ben Kenobi figure, it would be there. So once you've been Han Solo, once you've been Ben Kenobi, as long as you don't have any aspirations to be a politician, you might pull this one off. He never denied being in this outfit here, but you can see this first version of Lando. Same guy here. Yeah, so, but awesome to see, right? And then eventually they did create a really nice likeness of Billy D. Williams, but this Lando Calrissian 12-inch was never released by Kenner. There are a couple of prototypes of that around, but really fun to see that progression there. And that's what's the fun thing about these concept models, is they would do things like this. And there's a lot of aha moments. If you're looking through some random photography, in the 90s, when we get some of these catalogs, you'd see these things for the very first time, just like you're seeing, and I had that aha moments, and lots of collecting friends here had the same things as we're researching these over the years. And another guy here, we're working for 12-inch figures. Joe Johnson gave these to.
These are Joe Johnson's concepts for features for the Boba Fett. So they gave us I think there were 12 altogether, but they're this 1978-ish. Lucasfilm was one of the first companies to have a color photocopier. So these are the ones that I got are photocopies of the original watercolors that we did. So, but we use these as references, things we could do with Boba Fett.
Yeah, showing all the features there, and Joe was the designer of Boba Fett. And for those of you who don't know, maybe that Boba Fett was envisioned initially as a super trooper, like an elite stormtrooper. So the very first versions of this is completely white. You guys have probably seen they've made action figure versions of that since then. But translating these drawings into figure form, we have that Boba Fett. You can see a lot of the similarities, the shapes of the helmet as in the drawings. That's Gary Kurtz, and he's holding a remote. There's a wire going from that remote to the Boba Fett. This is an electronic Boba Fett. Little stunted missile in his backpack. And basically for photography, they just took that electronic version out, just shot it without that as like, okay, we're going to just have a regular action figure, and then you can see the final version. So the changes they made between their concept and their final version, pretty interesting there. And then moving along to some of the other guys, here's a concept originally to project your Princess Leia hologram. Jim and his team thought we could do a projector here.
We put a Give a Show projector in the chest of for R2D2, and that was cost reduced out of the eventual remote control unit. But it had lights and a lot more features than they ever put in production.
Yeah. So and then they sort of tweaked it to be this version here. Well, they took the Give a Show out, and they just made it just the standard remote control. Except there's something a little bit more special about that, because he's not as small as you think he is. On the side there, that's on the left side. That's the production version of that radio controlled R2D2, which is about this tall. So that other model is like this big. The big model did turn up about 10 or 15 years ago, so that still exists. Interesting, beside it, a concept model of what would have been that scale. It looks like it's mostly styrene. The legs are like styrene sheet. With that red controller. One of those red controllers surfaced recently. It was all painted black, but you turned it up. You look on the inside, it was red, and it's pretty interesting that was still around, and that red came from this original molded design. So interesting how it went from that bigger with the Give a Show to the smaller, cost-reduced form of this figure.
Because it was released in the UK.
Getting into the plush guys, Chewbacca.
Oh my God.
Quite fun there. Very similar to their final version, especially R2. Everything went through its concept stage. A little development of the lightsabers here.
Okay.
Inflatable lightsaber was the first version that Kenner released. You can see the very top version, that goofy orange blade, but it looks like Darth Vader. But the hilt, look at the hilt, it's got all that detail. It's like a lightsaber that you'd see sort of nowadays. And then they moved that down to sort of really cost reduce that to basically that flashlight on that big fat tube. And then they changed the tube a little bit more with a decal and sort of have a blend between the first one and the second one to get your final version. And this toy is funny. It came with a little patch kit, a little piece of squares of tape. So when you punctured your lightsaber, you just put the tape in the hole. Bopped your brother over the head. Early version of the 3-position laser rifle. And the laser pistol here, Hans laser pistol. This turned up only a few years ago. This is a Mauser. This is made in Hong Kong. It's from some toy. We haven't identified what toy that is right now, but they made a scope in the model shop and the muzzle to fit onto that existing toy. And then you can see the bottom photos. That's what the final version looked like of that toy. And expanding the lines here in Play-Doh, this is a good shot of, just taking a drawing and drawing all of the elements to show a Play-Doh set, showing we'll have 3 cans of Play-Doh, we'll have an X-Wing, here's a knife, here's the 3 molds, and it'll have a play mat. So just relaying what the final intention was for that set. And this was in the catalog as well. And real early version here of the electronic battle game. You can see all the electronics. This has been like the kind of breadboarding. You develop the electronics. You're not trying to package them at that point. You're trying to prove out like how the gameplay works in a sort of styrene, probably a vac form styrene base. And the X-Wing Aces used to be one of the coveted pieces in the 90s to get from the vintage line. This was all mechanical. It was based on Kenner developed this Aerial Aces game, this World War II shooting game, and it had string like cables on the inside. As you moved the cannon around, the cables would move lights in the back. It was a very complicated mechanical toy. The boxes got little stickers that says "Do not drop" because they had a lot of problems with keeping this thing going. But you can see all they did was shoot it in gray, and it still got the cartridge from the shells on top, so nobody wants these nowadays, unfortunately. But it's a pretty cool idea. It's a very good tabletop game, so pretty fun there. And then another early concept. This is mostly packaging. The movie viewer for Kenner had been around for quite a while. They've done Snoopy and other things, and they just translated it right to Star Wars, and it was perfect for Star Wars. It's such a visual medium. You can see it's mocked up the boxes. It's got the original Star Wars logo, pointy W. And these guys you see, Star Tots. I don't know how many of you guys have known. We've been doing Star Tots since Celebration 6 was the first one. This is the 5th series of Star Tots we've done. We got Star Tots idea from Kenner. They developed four actual figures, but they had created 8. This was based off of their Tree Tot toy line. A preschool line is very rudimentary. The figures were 1 3/4 inches tall. Our Star Tots are 1 3/4 inches tall. We started our original set with these 8, and we made 8 more. Most of those, pretty much all those, are designed by Jeff Carell. Matthias Rendahl did a number of those as well too, and now Jason Pell's doing the artwork. So we took this idea that Kenner had and really ran with it for us, and it's been really fun, and it seems like a lot of people like these, and this is where it came from. It was this concept. It never went anywhere with Kenner, but I think we've done some real justice here, and we brought it forth, and that rounds us out here. I don't think it's quite. We have some time for questions. If you guys want to answer some questions, we have 7 minutes, or if you want, or if you just guys want to head out. I'm willing to. We got one in the back. There's one over here too.
Is there anything you designed that they never produced that you wish they would?
Is anything that Kenner designed or that Jim designed that he wishes Kenner did produce?
I get that asked a lot. We did so many products idea things that never got done. We did a Death Star game that I thought could have been kind of cool. It was a game with a Death Star that spun around, and you have the X-Wings on springs that you could fire at the target and then it would blow up. That's about the only one. But we did an awful lot of stuff that was just pure concept and never got made. And we were talking about 77. We didn't have any electronics, so everything was mechanical.
If you had to pick a favorite item that you designed, which one would be your favorite from concept to production?
The X-Wing. The X-Wing and TIE Fighter. From the moment I read the script, that's what I wanted to play with. You know, I was 27, but when you're a toy designer, you think, you know, I take 20 years away and say what my 7-year-old self want to do. And as soon as I read they were doing dog fights and they're chasing each other, it was like, that's automatically, that's what I was going to do. So.
Thanks, guys. We're going to take questions in the social media too.